Will they compete for the playoffs or the number one draft pick? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman. He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter. That's right. Welcome to the Fifth Chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. And Dennis, it looks like you're ready for Christmas in just 3 days.
I'm ready to go. Why wouldn't you be? I just want to tell you that, man, this was like an original. See the ducks here on my ugly Christmas sweater a few years ago. It was in my mom's attic. She was throwing some things out. She's like, you can throw that thing out. I'm like, where'd you get it? She's like, oh, we've had that for a long time in the family. It's so ugly. And I was like, I'll take it.
Yes, I can use it for 1 week a year.
The rest is history, man. I don't know. It's an original. This is not a store bought. Somebody actually knit this in the family.
300 years ago?
Who knows? It smells like it, you know. I bet it could be 50 years old.
Dennis taking bathing off during the holiday season. And I'm sure that you're hoping to get a new Michigan defensive coordinator for Christmas.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen. I can guarantee you that. There is going to be a new coordinator under the tree. So will it be the same coach? That's the head coach. That's the big question.
That is the big question. Definitely want to thank everybody out there for joining us here on episode number 64. We have 5 more fantastic chapters for you. And we want to thank those who are watching via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. And also those who are listening to the podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Of course, that is going to be ready for you to listen to at around 10:30 on the day of each show. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback via Facebook Live, via YouTube, and Twitch. Dennis will be reading it throughout the course of the show. If you're wondering, well, what can I comment on? Let's take a look at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, there's a report that Carson Wentz does not want to be the backup to Jalen Hurts. He wants to be traded. Should the Lions go after him? And what about Matthew Stafford? In the third chapter, Dabo Swinney released his coaches poll rankings and said, you know what, Ohio State, they're not even a top 10 team. The CFP committee disagreed. We'll share with you just how low Dabo Swinney ranked the Deep South Buckeyes and whether the committee got it right. In the fourth chapter, ESPN predicts the Pistons will have a terrible season, and the Las Vegas experts are saying the same thing. Dennis and I will have our predictions on the new look squad that takes the court for the first time tomorrow for real. And then, of course, in the fifth chapter, it is the major wager. Dennis, let's start off, though, with the first chapter, and that takes us to the same old Lions. 2 days ago on the same old Lions Sunday in Tennessee, Matthew Stafford suited up and played, which is a surprise. Both of us predicted he would not play, and he played well despite that rib cartilage injury. The fact that they got blown out 46-25 was not particularly surprising because the Titans are a heck of a lot better than the Detroit Lions. The Titans got to the conference championship game in their conference last year. The Lions haven't been in decades. What else was surprising was what the Lions did early in the fourth quarter. What did they do? Well, they were down 32-18. They had all 3 timeouts. It was 4th and 4 at their own 31-yard line. So Darrell Bevell decided, you know what? We're just going to punt the football. We're just going to hope our defense can make a stop, get the ball back, flip the field, those types of things. And he called for the punt. The special teams coordinator, Braden Coombs, he had other plans. He called for a fake punt without notifying Bevell. C.J. Moore took a direct snap, ran to the outside and was stopped a few inches short of the first down for an SOL turnover on downs. The Titans got the ball at the Lions' 34-yard line, scored a touchdown 6 plays later, and that closed the casket. Yesterday, the Lions took action by firing special teams coordinator Braden Combs. When he was asked about the decision to fire Combs during his weekly press conference yesterday with the fake news media, and was asked about that fake punt call on Sunday, here is what Darrell Bevell said. If I can get the video loaded up, I'll show you exactly what he said.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
There we go.
I have to assess everything. I'm assessing that the quarterback is, not in a good way. And so also with the score and where we were, we had 3 timeouts left plus the 2-minute warning, and Jack is punting really well. I thought it'd be best to flip the field and keep us in the game there, down 2 scores. We get the ball back. You saw how the offense was going with a really good chance. If I'm going to go for it there, I'm going to leave the offense out, and I'm going to trust Matthew with the ball. And, that didn't happen in the situation. And there's some things that could be different. I would be standing in a different spot, could have made really good decisions in that, and not knowing what was going on, led to bad things happening.
So just to be clear, did you tell him to punt and then he decided on his own to go with the fake? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Now, that is an SOL. I don't know what is SOL, but you would think that pulling a sneak move like that would not only lead to a firing like that, but there'd be lots of support for that type of firing, because you can't just go around pulling sneak moves on the head coach when he specifically tells you we're going to punt. But check out what Jamal Agnew, their star punt returner, said on Twitter moments after the announcements. What we doing, man? Come on! And he was not the only Detroit Lion to voice displeasure about the decision to get rid of Braden Combs, and perhaps that's because he had coached up a Pro Bowl punter in Jack Fox, who made the Pro Bowl this year. He had coached up a special teams unit that had blocked 3 punts and an extra point this year and seemingly done a good job. Dennis, what did you think about the Lions' decision to fire the special teams coordinator with just 2 games to go after he called a fake punt behind Darrell Bevell's back?
Well, I wondered if they would have fired Puffy if he would have made it. Did anybody ask him? Did anybody ask Bevell if Puffy would have made the call or they would have made the first down, if he would have fired him then? I know that's a smart-ass question, but, we got a lot of smart-ass people in the media. I thought that would have been a question for Bevell to see what he would have said there. There's one part here, there's a lot of times when you're on the punt team that they have just looks that they go automatically. It doesn't matter. You're not getting any calls from the side. Now, I know that this was predetermined before they went in there, and so whatever it wasn't relayed through the headset. So it was a sneak moves there by Puffy Combs. But there's a part about it he'd be everybody's getting fired in 2 games, so what the hell, But the other part is there's a I don't know. They're talking about they're establishing the culture, but they're like, no, well, Spielman didn't have anything to do with this. I don't know. Does Spielman have anything to do with it or not? There's one part about this where it feels like, they said, it's just a rogue fake punt. But then you start seeing, he's a self-promoter. And these are all, he was late for some meetings. All of these things are speak to office, behind the back, kind of rumorish stuff that the Lions have been known for over the years. So, there's a part of me that wonders all about that. There's a lot of cronyism and a lot of, talking behind people's back for the Lions. So, this guy was their best coach. And, he's got the best numbers on the team here. There were people that wanted to see him elevated to be the head coach. So I think there's more that meets the eye here. I don't care. There's 2 games. None of these guys are going to be back anyway. So what the hell? I didn't care that they went for it there anyways. I mean, they're getting their ass kicked in the game. They're going to lose the game. Stafford's out there, playing all banged up. And I got to read tweets about here's the one thing about Lion fans: they don't get it. They don't get it about Matt Stafford. If I had to read one tweet, I had to read 100 about say whatever you want about Stafford, but don't ever question his toughness. Nobody ever questions his toughness.
Mm-hmm.
They question how stupid the front office is, the coaches, and the organization for putting the guy out there with busted up ribs when you're out of the playoffs 2 years ago, for putting him out there with a broken back. And Lion fans don't get it. I mean, some, even in the media, don't question his toughness. I'm so tired of that. So tired of, let's not question Matt. That's my quarterback. He's tough. Or having to read, everybody, blow him afterwards because, he's like, I'm going to be there for my team. It's not about that, you dummies.
Well, and not only is it not about whether he's tough, it's about how he plays. And on Sunday, let's give him credit. He did play well, especially given the rib cartilage injury. But there have been many other times when Matt Stafford, tough or not, injured or not, has not shown up when the Lions needed him most, whether it's in the fourth quarter throwing an interception or a pick six or struggling early on in the game or whatever the case may be, just being the second best quarterback on the field, not leading his team to victory. But when I look at this Braden Combs situation, I mean, this is, I get your point about how there's only 2 games left after this. If he wants to go rogue, it's not a big deal. Everyone's getting fired in the first place. Although I will say, going rogue is not going to help him get another job. You try to apply for another job as a special teams coordinator or a head coach or anything, and you say, yeah, my last job, I was given direct orders by my supervisor, and I did the exact opposite of that, and it failed. That's probably not going to help him, and it's not going to help anybody else out there if they're trying to do something like that in their industry. But this has same old Lions written all over it, and I think it's going to go down as one of the big SOL moments in history. The special teams coordinator, who everyone says is not a cultural fit with the Lions, goes behind the interim coach's back to run you thought it was a great move. I thought it was a stupid move, and it was certainly stupid given the fact that it didn't succeed. A fake punt in minus territory seconds after the head coach says, no, don't do that. Let's punt the ball away. You do the exact opposite and it fails. If you do the exact opposite and it succeeds, CJ Moore takes it to the house or he gets 40 yards down the field, then guess what? You're making your supervisor, your boss, look good because he can go to the press afterwards and say, yeah, it was my decision to call for a fake punt and it worked out. We saw something on film and it worked out, even though that's obviously not what took place in this situation. This was easily a fireable offense. You can't just do the opposite of what your boss says to make him look stupid and make him look powerless and then fail. Right?
Yeah, okay. I thought maybe you just popped off there for a second. I was ready for you to jump back in there. That happens once in a while. Now, those are all good points. I think the biggest one is that, this is perfectly Lions. Like, right, like I didn't say it was a great move. I just said, like, the season's trash. I didn't care because of the situation that they were in. It's kind of like when you get down there 4th and goal. I mean, every time you just cue the announcer. It's like, hey, you've only got 4 or 5 wins on the season. What the hell? Mm-hmm. They always say that. So that's the way I was thinking about it. It just it feels very Lion-esque. I mean, that's it. Like you've got a coach. Actually, the one guy. If you took a poll of 100 people that really know about the Lions, which coach is had a good season, which one is valuable. This guy would win that vote. So this was the one guy they were even thinking about. Like I said, putting him as the head coach there. But go behind Bevel's back and everything else. So they say it's culture. It just goes back like, Patricia was running, such a garbage outfit that, he leaves and now you got people sniping and, during a game it gets so bad that you got a guy going, and can't follow the game plan during a game. I mean, that's Lions
same
football.
old Lions.
That's Lions football right there. So, yeah, you know what? It was something that I suspect, though, all this stuff that, it's got to do when they keep throwing that culture thing out there and Spielman's talking about culture. The Lions culture is one that starts with the Fords at the top and is always about brown nosing more than any other organization or any office that I've been in. The problem has always been the Fords and Rod Wood. And I know they got Spielman in there, and they brought Barry in. Everybody applauded that, but they're the ones that have a problem with the culture. And, this just feels like it's one of those things that's intersected here. Always keep an eye on the Fords, and always keep an eye on Wood, because, man, the cronyism and the brown nosing and the way that they've run their business, I don't think that you're just going to do it about face. I'd love to see Chris Spielman go in there and say, hey, yeah, we've looked at everybody. It was
interesting.
To the top and have them looking in their mirror. Yeah, interesting that they said that Spielman didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, because I heard Darrell Bevell in his press conference saying, yeah, after the game, I had to think about this long and hard, and I talked to Rod. He didn't say anything about talking to Chris or talking to Mr. Spielman or anything like that. He said, I talked to Rod, and then the next day I made the decision to fire him. So, look, Rod Wood can talk all he wants.
You believe that?
Yes, I believe
that. Nothing to do with it? Let's ask the people that are watching here, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube Live, whether you're on Twitch here. We read the feedback during the show. Do you believe that Chris Spielman absolutely had nothing to do with this? Are you just taking it at face value? What do you think there?
Yeah,
line it up.
I don't know, because obviously Chris Spielman was hired to be the assistant to Rod Wood, but you would think that Darrell Bevell would have more respect for Chris Spielman than Rod Wood, because Spielman is a football guy, and he didn't. I can't imagine that he just forgot to mention Spielman. I think that he just chose to mention Rod Wood because that was the truth. He spoke to Rod Wood about it. I don't think that Rod Wood was saying, well, here's my opinion about it. I think he was just saying, well, you're one of my superiors, and I have to let you know if we're going to make a personnel decision, and I'm thinking about making a significant personnel decision and firing Braden Coombs with just a couple of games left in the season. But I will say this, when they talk about the culture fit and how this is brewing for some time, let's remember that the Lions had a bad culture under Matt Patricia, where you have players leaving the Lions organization and being quick to rip Patricia, saying that he was a terrible coach, he needed to get out of there, all that stuff. Braden Coombs got the exact opposite treatment when he left. You didn't have Lions special teamers saying, good, can't wait to see what our new special teams coordinator is going to be like. He was awful. They were disappointed, probably because of what you were saying. He was the most successful coach or the most successful coordinator on the team. They hadn't blocked a punt in I think it was like 12 years, and they blocked 2 in one game and then won the very next game. They have a Pro Bowl punter. They blocked an extra point this year. He was doing a heck of a job. Did he make a stupid decision? Yes, but they were down by 14 points in the fourth quarter. That's not his fault.
Yeah, it feels like maybe one of these things are not like the other, and one of them is that Coombs, I think, is a good coach and will get hired by another organization, and the Lions are the Lions until further notice.
Yeah, well, and especially considering Combs is only 34 years old, that suggests that he's got a lot of time left in the league, and I think he's been in the NFL for 10 years.
Yeah, it goes back and speaks to the Lions here. Is they even if they're trying to get something right, they can't. They don't. But you know what? They don't get the benefit of the doubt here.
No.
Like the thing about Rod Wood, did a decent job. Sanders in there. I like that move, but I don't really like the move of the interim head coach who's only got 2 more games. Making the call, and Rod Wood said,
it was a fireable offense. I've got no issue with that.
It was, but I don't like that Rod Wood's. I thought that they were gonna shuffle things around and kind of get Rod Wood out of the spotlight. Can we get Rod Wood out of the spotlight, or is he gonna be on shows with you next year? I'd say, let's go to Rod Wood. I can't wait. I'll be listening to those shows.
The face of the Fords, Rod Wood.
This is Brian Chapman. Welcome to the Lion Show here. Let's go to Rod Wood. Rod, you guys doing a great job. Your thoughts?
Yeah. All right,
I'll be tuning in.
What kind of thoughts are we getting from YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch?
Jerry on Facebook says it doesn't matter that he'll be fired. It doesn't matter that he fired Combs. They will both be gone after the season. Jerry says his pick sixes to defensive linemen. He makes horrible decisions when it matters. Paul's wishing us a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And that is what Keith is doing as well. Chappie, Merry Christmas to you. Dennis, what's up? And everyone. So, yeah, we're getting everybody in the holiday spirit here, talking about the Lions and the special teams coach.
All right, Dennis, let's turn the page now to the second chapter.
That keeps us with the NFL and the Lions here. Chap mentioned it at the beginning that Carson Wentz was benched, and now you've got Matt Stafford playing here. Should the Lions look at Carson Wentz, and what will they do with Matt Stafford? What do you think? This has been the big question here for a couple weeks now.
Well, I think that the reason it's even an even bigger question now is because of the report from ESPN that came out. It was either earlier today or within the last couple of days, and that was that Carson Wentz is not satisfied being the backup to Jalen Hurts, and if he's going to remain the backup to Jalen Hurts, and it appears he's going to be for the remainder of the season, then he wants out of Philly. So that's where he becomes available, is if Wentz demands a trade or forces a trade or whatever. But if I'm the Lions, I would not be interested in Carson Wentz at all, and I've got 3 reasons. Number 1, he's expensive. Number 2, he sucks. And number 3, he's a terrible teammate. Why would you want to why would you want to acquire, give up assets for an expensive, bad football player who I don't want to say is a cancer in a locker room, but he's a bad teammate? He's about to enter year 1. He's about to enter year 1 of a 4-year, $128 million contract extension. Quick math says that's $32 million per year. The Lions would have to cut him by the second day of the new league year in 2021, or else his $22 million salary for 2022 is fully guaranteed, and he would get a $10 million roster bonus that day for the 2021 season. And guess what? You're not trading for Carson Wentz between the Super Bowl and the second day of the league year, only to cut him before he takes a snap. Also, if you trade for him and the Eagles pay his roster bonus, and so you acquire him after that, but before the draft, you still have to pay him all of his money for 2021 and all of his money for 2022. Why do that when you can get a cheaper quarterback through the draft who's probably going to be better because, once again, Carson Wentz sucks. He's not elite. And if he was elite, all that money would be worth it. He's not great. If he was great, all that money would be worth it. But he's not even okay right now. He's been a terrible quarterback. In 2020, he's completing 57.4% of his passes. He's got 16 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. Those are Jameis Winston ratios. You got 5 fumbles out of this guy. A passer rating of 72.8. He's got the 28th best QBR at 49.3. The guy's no good. I heard a lot of talk from NFL experts saying, oh, it's not all his fault and all this stuff. But guess what? Jalen Hurts gets in there with the same offensive line issues, the same wide receiver issues. And guess what? He looks pretty good in his first 2 starts, and he leads them to a victory against the New Orleans Saints. Why would I want to pay for a guy who's worse than the guy that just replaced him? He's been replaced twice. He got replaced by Nick Foles. He's been replaced now by a second-round pick rookie in Jalen Hurts, who was just struggling a couple years ago, 3 years ago at Alabama to complete passes and was replaced by Tua, and then he's a bad teammate. Look at this. He gets benched with less than a month to go in the season. The team's in a playoff run. They just beat the Saints to stay in the hunt, and he's going behind everybody's back talking about, I want out. He's not keeping that quiet. He's not trying to be a good teammate and help Jalen Hurts. Maybe he is, but he's being a bad teammate by saying, I want to be out. When you're a scrub saying, I want out, not a good look. Yeah, let's also not forget that a few years ago, there were some reports coming out of Philly that he was not happy about Nick Foles passing him up on the depth chart, even though Foles led him to the Super Bowl. He's a bad teammate. Why would you want to bring in an overpaid scrub who's a terrible teammate to lead your franchise and replace Stafford? There are better options out there.
Yeah, I think the last part, there are a lot better options. But I don't think he's necessarily a scrub. You can remember, just the year you mentioned that Foles took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Foles played great in the playoffs there. But if you go back, Foles was one of the leaders. You could easily make a case that he would have gone on if he would have not gotten hurt and been the MVP that year. We don't know what would have happened in the playoffs, but in the year before that, it was the same thing. Like, the guy, I guess it was the following year, he went out there, was having a pretty good year, and then he got hurt again. If it wasn't for the injuries here and the big price tag. There will be a team that wants to take a chance on him, but not for the gigantic price tag. I mean, that's the part about it, because of the injury history and the price tag. You can take a shot at him, and a team would like to take a shot with him there. I don't know about handing him a starting job next year, but there will be a team that wants him. But nobody's going to want to trade for him and pay the big time money and then hand him a starting job. That would be ridiculous.
Well, if you're going to trade for him, you're not trading for him to compete for a job. You're trading for him to be that starting quarterback because he's getting paid all that money. He's going to have already gotten the roster bonus, you would assume, because Philly's not going to be able to trade him before the second day of the league year. Nobody's going to want to pick that up, but he's going to be, I think his base salary next year is $15 million. You're not acquiring a guy to give him $15 million to compete for a starting job. And at that point, his $22 million salary for 22 will already have been guaranteed. So if you're trading for him, you're trading for him for at least 2 years. There's no way I'm going to trade for him when he's got at least 2 years left, when he's already turned the ball over 20 times this year, and they bring in a new guy, a rookie making his first start, and he doesn't have any of those issues. That suggests that he sucks. I get that a couple of years ago he was a contender for the MVP, but guess what? A few years ago, Cam Newton did win the MVP, and guess what? He got hurt. He's not good. He's not that good anymore. Carson Wentz got hurt. He's not that good anymore.
Yeah, well, the one thing is, you can't just like Cam Newton got a shot with his shoulder. If you feel like that the Wentz and the Eagles will have to have him sit there and, he can do whatever he wants, but, he's going to have to be a bad actor and he's going to have to be on the bench and everything. Like Jalen Hurts has had one game. Let's not act like
Two.
he's some. Yeah, well, he's had one good game. The first game he wasn't any good. So let's not act like they found their franchise quarterback or anything. You know what? This could easily be a situation where you get into next year and Hurts goes out there and craps the bed, and they have to go back to Carson Wentz. And, you would like people to get into the league and be great right away and stay right there. But guys do get hurt and they do fall off, and then they can come back and still have productive careers. And so what I'm saying is I wouldn't completely write off Wentz, even though all those things that you say about him are true. But remember, Hurts played one good game. Let's slow our roll on him being some, future of the Eagles or some, that they found their replacement. Let's hold off on that.
Well, think about this. If Carson Wentz had been typical Carson Wentz against the New Orleans Saints, they would have lost that game because he would have turned the ball over. He would have turned it over a couple of times. And I was listening to the Chris Sims Unbuttoned podcast. He does a lot of work on NBC for Sunday Night Football, and he has an excellent NFL podcast. And he breaks down every single game. He watches all this film. And for the second week in a row, he said that Jalen Hurts didn't have any negative plays. I mean, I get that he didn't make a heck of a lot of superstar plays and great throws, but when you can come in and not hurt your team by getting sacked, running for losses, turning the ball over, things like that, that can help you out a lot, especially when you're just trying to win the division at this point in the NFC least. That got them a win against the team at the time that had the best record in the NFC. They were without Drew Brees, but they had won games without Drew Brees before that. And just by not turning the ball over, just by making the respectable plays needed to win games, he was able to lead them to victory. Meanwhile, Carson Wentz was thinking, I could have turned the ball over there. I could have thrown a pick six.
Yeah, well, my prediction is that Wentz will stay with the Eagles, and at some point next year, Hurts will play bad, and Wentz will be back in there, and people will be like, wow, man, remember when we completely wrote him off? There's my prediction for you. All right, we got feedback coming in on the Lions. We'll see if anybody wants to jump in and get Carson Wentz in Detroit. Keith does not. Carson Wentz is no good. He's a stinking bum. Just like Rocky called Paulie. I like a Rocky reference. Just when he had his moment of glory in 2017, he gets hurt. Foles wins the Super Bowl. He must have said look bad all season. And had Philly benched him 5 games ago, they might have had a chance to win the crappy NFC East. He really played so bad this season that his games with good stats were unwatchable. Here's somebody else jumping in and saying no to Carson Wentz. That's KJ. And Roger says Lions should trade Stafford for Carson Wentz or the gentleman's club man, Dwayne Haskins.
Okay, if you're the Eagles, you're not looking to acquire Matt Stafford because if you're trading away Carson Wentz, you're not looking to have a quarterback competition. You're trading away Carson Wentz because you found your future franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, or at least you're willing to give him a full year as your starting quarterback, with the entire offseason being the starting quarterback, the entire offseason that's not interrupted by the coronavirus, a full preseason, and then go into the entire 16-game slate as your starting quarterback. It would not help his growth if he's got this injured 1.5-time Pro Bowler coming in, who's had more success than Hurts has had so far, saying, I want this job. Plus, we've seen that you compete for championships when you have quarterbacks on their rookie deals playing well. Hurts is a second-round pick, first-year player. Next year, he'd be a second-round pick, second-year player. Why bring in a guy like Stafford who's going to eat up $27 million a year when you can use Stafford's money to help your defense, help your offensive line, other areas of the football team?
Yeah, well, Chap, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been at any strip clubs, but you this summer have been hanging out outside of them all along.
Oh, yes.
Back and forth. So I don't know, Dwayne Haskins. I don't know about the the greater DC area there, but would he like the gentlemen's clubs here in Detroit?
You know what? He might, because even though the gentlemen's clubs are shut down right now, the gentlemen's clubs in Detroit and Michigan were among the last to shut down. That's according to a lot of the strippers that I talked to. They were flying in from all across the country and actually from out of the country. I talked to a stripper a couple of months ago, or maybe 1 month ago, who came in from Toronto. I talked to her about 2 days before they shut down the strip clubs, and she said that she came in because all the Canadian strip clubs were shut down. I said, what are you going to do now? She said she was going to go to Miami until the Detroit strip clubs open back up. So perhaps I'll see her again in a couple of weeks. But Dwayne Haskins is another knucklehead.
Was that the one that was throwing you her number?
No, that was a different one. She was for that one was from Seattle. She came all the way across the country to strip in Detroit. But Dwayne
Haskins.
Haskins.
People that missed it, she was giving Chapman her number, and Brown was like, okay, driving away, throwing her number out the window.
I don't do for hire pickups like that. She was very attractive, that's for certain. She was a nice person, very friendly, but I didn't do it. But here,
wow, she was friendly and attractive, and you threw out her number?
Look, as much as I know about strippers, having talked to a lot of them, they all have issues. When it comes to them giving you a lap dance or dancing on a pole, they can do their job that way. But in terms, and I get that some people are they think it's a, I would love to be in love with a stripper just like T-Pain, but they come with a lot. That's right. Yes, that's right. They come with a lot of baggage. You better be ready to fund their drug habits. You better be ready to deal with a lot of them aren't all that intelligent. Some of them are. They are legitimately stripping to get through school, but a lot of them have drug habits. You better be willing to deal with their kids. You better be willing to deal. Think about this. If they're a stripper, then every night that they go to work, they're cheating on you. If they're making good money, they're cheating on you. Because guess what? If they're not making good money, then all they're doing is lap dances. But if they're making good money, they're bringing home thousands per day, which a good stripper can do. Then how do they do that? By just doing lap dances. They're not. They go into the back and they're cheating on you. Then they're going to come home after cheating on you and say, hey, boo, can I give you a kiss on the lips? Don't think so. Don't think so.
I don't know. I guess strip clubs have changed. I mean, you got to stay 6 feet, even if you go to the champagne room. I mean, there's rules in there. There's rules. There's rules in there, chap.
Yeah,
all right, Jerry, getting back to some of the feedback here. Jerry says, draft a quarterback in the first round and let him be the backup to Stafford next year. Get rid of Stafford after next season because it's less of a cap hit, and let the new guy start in 2022. I'm going to go ahead and give him a heart emoji on that one. Look at that. Oh,
I was gonna say, by the way, somebody brought up about trading for Dwayne Haskins. I wouldn't trade for him either. He's a knucklehead. You mentioned him going to the strip club and violating the protocols. Remember, I think it was last year he won his first game and he wasn't on the field to take a knee because he was going around giving high fives to the fans. Only a deep South Buckeye would do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, not only
Sorry,
did he
Coach.
not,
Gotta give high fives.
Not only did he not have his mask on, he was obviously, not keeping a socially distanced.
Yeah, you don't have strippers.
He wasn't even 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly. You don't bring strippers over and say, go stay on the other side of the room. Because he tried to defend what he did by saying it wasn't at a strip club. They apparently went back to his hotel room. But he wasn't in the bathroom looking around the corner while they were stripping and dancing on the bed and keeping 6 feet. I can't imagine that was the case. I didn't look at the photos, but you don't hang around strippers to socially distance. That I know for a fact.
I saw a photo with a stack of cash in one hand and a big old butt in the other, in his face in the other one. So yeah, he wasn't.
That's what you do with strippers.
Yeah, I don't know if he was 6 centimeters from. No, I don't want to trade for Dwayne Haskins either. But I think Jerry, Jerry is what would it be, unsexy or unappealing as it might sound to a lot of Lion fans that are ready to move on with a new coach and a new GM and new everything. That I think the Lions are going to do exactly what Jerry says. I think they are going to draft a quarterback, and I think Matt Stafford, you want to call him a caretaker, a bridge quarterback is what they call them now. I think that's what's I would put my money on exactly what Jerry's saying. I think Matt Stafford will be the starting quarterback for the Lions next year, but I do believe that they will draft one. Mike's getting in on the holiday theme, throwing out a Merry Christmas. It's good to see him on Facebook. We've got more here coming in. Chap, you asked for feedback, and you're getting it. Good job. This one is from Rogers. Oh, no, Rogers the one that was talking about trading for Haskins. Mark M. says the Lions are what Ditka said they were. Lint-covered frauds. Who cares what these dummies that hired Patricia do? They're all losers. He puts that in caps. A little disgruntled, but understandable, Mark, when it comes down to the Lions. And then Keith, it's been a while since he's put this out, but he's back here. The Lions should have drafted Tua. What the Lions should have done now, I didn't.
Maybe Herbert.
Well, there you go. Herbert's the one they should have drafted. I didn't think they should have drafted Tua because they couldn't get their hands on him and look at him with the injury and everything. So I was against the Lions drafting Tua. Herbert, if they would have taken a look at him, and that would have been the move for him.
He's looking like the best quarterback in this draft, and now they've got a 2-3 year window to try to capitalize on that and get to a Super Bowl before he demands the highest paid contract in NFL history.
Yeah, Herbert's the real deal. I mean, you watch the L.A. Chargers. I mean, you can see it. I mean, this is a guy that has got it. So, yep, Chargers made the right move there. Lions whiffed on that one.
Of course. All right, let's turn the page to the third chapter. And that gets us to college football, where we have our 4 teams to the college football playoff. And there's no surprise because we pretty much known who those 4 teams were going to be for the last month or two. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Clemson. Number 3, the Deep South Buckeyes. And number 4, Notre Dame. Now, some thought that 8-1 Texas A&M could jump from number 5 after going 8-1 with that 7-game winning streak to finish the season, crushing Tennessee. Some thought maybe Cincinnati could jump up, but when they were starting from number 9 last week, going up 5 spots to get into the top 4 after winning the AAC by 3 points was not that likely. Those 2 teams' arguments were kind of boosted up a little bit after Ohio State trailed the Northwestern Nerds for most of the Big Ten championship game and only won by 12, and that win moved Ohio State to a mere 6-0. You also had Clemson body slamming Notre Dame 34-10 in the ACC championship game to boost the arguments for Cincinnati and Texas A&M. But those 4 teams made the CFP anyway. And one guy who was not a fan of Ohio State making the CFP was Dabo Swinney, as you all know, you got the CFP, which is the only poll that really matters. You got the Associated Press, which is the only poll that matters until the CFP releases their polls late in the season. And then you got the coaches poll. Check out this tweet from ESPN SportsCenter. Neither Dabo nor Nick Saban had Ohio State in the top 4 of their final coaches poll ballots. And as you can see, Dabo Swinney didn't have them at 1. There's Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Notre Dame, 4 Texas A&M, 5 Florida, 6 Georgia, 7 Cincinnati. So Ohio State's not even the best team in that state, according to Dabo. 8 Oklahoma, 9 Iowa State, 10 Coastal Carolina, and 11 the Deep South Buckeyes. Meanwhile, Nick Saban had the Buckeyes at number 5 overall. But Dabo said, Buckeyes, they played 6 games. They're not a top 10 team. Dennis, what did you think of Dabo Swinney ranking Ohio State 11th? And what did you think about the committee's final rankings?
Yeah, well, I think Dabo's trying to look at it's a whole north-south type thing. It was a complete pandemic thing. Like down south, Dabo wanted 90,000 in Death Valley. Coronavirus, it's nothing here. Let's get out there. Let's play. Those weak Yankees up north, like they're going out there, they're hiding protocols and heck, Michigan begging out of games, doing like Florida State did. I called Dabo. I called them out, told them they were a bunch of cowards or they wouldn't play us. This is totally Dabo being a Southerner and turning up his nose at the virus and saying, those Buckeyes and the rest of the Yankees, but these guys shouldn't be in it. They only played 4 or 5 games, 6 games in the end. So that's what he's doing. He was putting it out there, and he's Dabo's running for office, man. He wants to be the president of the Confederacy. I think that's what he's.
Wow.
That's what
the Confederacy.
That's what it's. Well, what's he gonna do? Like he doesn't like
bring
people
back
from
slaves.
Up north. Well, yeah, I don't think he wants to do that.
Yeah,
but I do think that
I don't know about that either.
It's running deep, down there in the South, what they think of the pandemic. So that's what I think he did. As far as the Final Four, I think that those were the 4 teams that they should put in there. I don't think that you can really make a case for Texas A&M over Notre Dame. You could try, but once you look at both of their best wins, A&M over Florida and Notre Dame over Clemson, I mean, you really want to argue that? That's very close. You look at the second best win, and Texas A&M, the only team that they beat that was above 500 was Auburn, and Notre Dame beat North Carolina, who's in the top 25. It shows you just how like Dabo and Nick Saban, how people love those teams in the South, and they play right into that. Because I was listening to who was Charlie? No, it was Rex Ryan. That's who it was. He was on there like, "Oh, are you kidding me? Texas A&M plays in the SEC. They totally deserve it." And he didn't even look at the schedule. He was just like, "Oh man, they ran through and played an undefeated SEC schedule." That's somebody that has no idea. They put people on there. Here was a guy that was coaching in the NFL. He doesn't have any idea of what goes into college football. That's like Charles Barkley when he's sitting out there during the NCAA selection committee. Like, he doesn't know. He didn't watch 1 minute of college basketball, and yet he's going to be the expert. And Rex Ryan's going to be the same way. No, I think they got it right. But what they really need to do, like, get away of the charade of having the group of 5 in there. Go to 8 teams. Nothing's perfect there, but you get the 5 automatic qualifiers. Because you know what? If they would have done 8 this year and they would have just had 3 at-large, they wouldn't have had Cincinnati in there. The committee needs to guarantee, and college football needs to guarantee, that the group of 5, no matter if there's not a team in the top 25, they need to guarantee that they'll put a team in there. Maybe they can put some qualifications in there saying that they at least have to be in the top 15 or something like that, top 20, top 25. So that at least gives the group of 5 where you feel like, okay, they're going to have a shot. One of these teams is going to have a shot to do it. You still would have 2 at-large. But just like this year, you'd have who won the Pac-12 this year? Oregon?
Yes.
They're not even in the top 25. So you would have them, in the college football playoff. So, Oklahoma would be in there. And Notre Dame would have got one of those at large. Texas A&M would have got the other one, and then Cincinnati. Nothing's perfect out there, but you just have to ask yourself: do you really want the group of five to be a participant?
Well, I think it was clear that the committee did not want them to be a participant because when the highest group of five team going into the final weekend of the season was ranked number 9, there's no way, even with a whole bunch of upsets, that Cincinnati will be able to climb 5 legs of a ladder in 1 week unless maybe they won by 40, but then you have to look at the other 8 games, and the first 8 games of the season made the committee or allowed the committee to come to the conclusion that they were not a top 8 team. But I thought with regards to Dabo Swinney, what he did was, it was kind of funny, and he was making a point, and I thought a good point. And that was that the Buckeyes played a weak schedule, and they didn't look impressive getting through their week schedule. They had 3 bye weeks thanks to the coronavirus, and they finished with only 6 games, all wins. They also only made their conference championship game because the Big Ten set rules and broke rules to get them in. Do I think they're the 11th best team in the country? I don't think that. But I like what Dabo Swinney did by making the point. I don't think that Ohio State deserves to be in the top 4. Think about what they did this year. They beat Indiana by 7 at home. That's their signature win, beating Indiana by 7 at home. Indiana was a controversial call away from being just a 5-2 team because of that first game against Penn State. Ohio State beat Penn State, a team that started out 0-5, by just 13 points. They gave up 27 points to Rutgers. They only scored 22 points against a Northwestern team that won 3 games last year. They had 3 bye weeks. That Florida LSU game shows you the importance of playing every game or as many games as you can on the schedule, because sometimes, even if you're a monster favorite, you can lose a game. We saw that a couple years ago with Purdue. We saw that with Iowa. But when you lessen the amount of opportunities you have to get upset, and you have all these extra opportunities for a week or 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent because you got a coronavirus pandemic on your campus or on another team's campus, then you lessen the chances of getting upset. I think that a lot of folks right now would say that Florida might be better than Ohio State, given how they performed against the Alabama Crimson Tide last week and how Ohio State performed.
If they didn't throw a shoe against LSU, they might have a case.
Correct. And you know what?
They got 2 fat losses on there.
There could have been a shoe. There could have been a shoe
Lawrence
situation in Ohio State versus Michigan or Ohio State versus Maryland or whomever, but we didn't get to see those games.
Well, that's a fine point. Do you think Trevor Lawrence should be excluded from winning the Heisman Trophy because he wasn't out there for enough games?
He missed 2 games, and guess what? Despite missing 2 games, he played more games than Justin Fields. But he played 9 games.
So I'm asking you: do you think he should be eligible to win the Heisman Trophy? Do you think
playing
Dabo
9 games?
That?
Yes, I think playing 9 games this year is enough. 9 out of 11, that's plenty. Ohio State, they played 6 games this year. They played 50%. Cincinnati played 50% more games than them this year. You look at Texas A&M, they won 25% more games than Ohio State this year. 6 games. Look, I think that they might be a top 4 team, but I'm not certain because they didn't have many opportunities to get upset. And when they did play that weak Big Ten schedule, they didn't look all that impressive.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be like Josh Gaddis and start, defending the Buckeyes like the Michigan offensive coordinator was. But, for everybody, like we are going into this season, we're lucky that we even had a college football season. So I'm not going to bitch too much about what they came out with, which is really what the fans actually ended up wanting to see, which is Ohio State in there. Not Texas A&M, not Florida, who's got 2 losses. It actually is an Ohio State team. That's who they want to see in there. Now, what would have been interesting if they would have dropped Ohio State, even though they didn't lose a game, and put them at 4 and had them play Alabama. They could have moved it around like that. But I'll give Dabo Swinney this. He dropped him knowing that he was going to play him. So we always talk about, fuel and let's all play it right down the middle. You don't want to give the other team any motivation by looking Ohio State right in the face and saying, hey, you suck guys. You guys aren't even in the top 10.
You're not a real Southern team. We are. That's what he's saying.
You guys are a bunch of pansies when it comes down to the coronavirus. We lick poles down here. And
you're taking protocols. You're taking precautions. We're just getting out there in the football field, and we're playing some ball.
Mask schmasks. We're gonna wipe you on the field, cough in your face. Yeah, so it took some guts to do that because normally coaches are staying all away from any of that trash talk, and Dabo knew what he was doing there.
Want to give credit to the opponent. They're a really strong football team in Ohio. I get that. Before we get to the feedback, 2 quick points. Number one, about the final polls, I think that one of the issues is that we essentially have 3 tiers of teams this year, 3 tiers of great teams this year. We got the Alabama and Clemson tier. I think everybody agrees are the 2 best teams in the country. We got the Ohio State tier, where we think they're great, but they only played 6 games. And then you've got, about 5 or 6 teams after that are, just kind of blended in, whether it's Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida. You can throw Cincinnati in there. Maybe you want to throw Oklahoma in there. They're teams that really don't have much of a shot to win the CFP, but, somebody's got to be the 4th team to go to the CFP this year. The other thing is, I'm just so sick and tired of people bending over backwards to help out Ohio State. The Big Ten set rules, they said you can skip a game, you can skip 2, but you can't skip 3 games and go to the Big Ten championship game. They skipped 3 games, wasn't all their fault, and they still let them in anyway. I get that if it hadn't been for that breaking their own rules, it would have been Northwestern against 3-5 Penn State, which I would have liked. But c'est la vie. Penn State was the hottest team in the East down the stretch. They were undefeated after Thanksgiving. On top of that, they broke another rule. Because guess what? They said, you know what? We got that 21-day window where you have to sit out if you test positive. We're going to shrink that to 17 days. Now, from what I understand, they didn't do that because the doctors came together and said, you know what? We think you can shave 4 days off because it's unnecessary. It seems as if they said, wow, Chris Olave is probably not going to be available to play in the CFP if you guys keep this 21-day window. But if you shave it down to 17, then Chris Olave and Tuf Borland and some of these other Buckeyes could be ready to go and give their best effort against the Clemson Tigers. That's bending over backwards for the Buckeyes. And this goes all the way back to 2010 when they had Tattoo-gate and they had those players suspended for 5 games. But they said, we have to have a Sugar Bowl game with DeVere Posey, and we have to have a Sugar Bowl game with Terrell Pryor. So we'll trust that you guys will all come back for 2011, and we'll push your 5-game suspension back until after this bowl game. They're always finding some way to bend over backwards to please Ohio State, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah, well, I feel you on that. And just remember, it's like one of my good friends always says about Ohio State. Rules don't apply to them. Just keep going back to that.
Yeah, I guess not.
They definitely did cater to him, so I understand. I give everybody a pandemic pass, but you know what? The hell with Ohio State. All right, Keith says, just another reason that the fake 4-team playoff is a joke. He says, I hate it. That's why I'm not a big college football fan. If any time there should have been an expanded playoffs, it would have been this year, this crazy pandemic season. There should have at least been 16 teams in the playoffs. We keep saying the same
16,
argument, wow. 2 divisions, all the rest of the bowl games are a joke, meaningless exhibition games. I haven't watched any of these bowl games in years. Yeah, well, you know what? Keith makes a point there. At some point, though, the playoffs gets to be too many in college football. There is something where it's the same old teams all of the time here. Mm-hmm. Look, for the majority of my life, they didn't have the 2 best teams playing. They just voted at the end of the year, and it was ridiculous. As much as I loved college football, I got to the end, and I was just like, oh, my God, this is a joke. BCS was a little bit better, still a joke. And then they made this 4-team playoff, which, you have you're always going to look at the 5th team and say, oh, my God, look at what they do. They do it in the NCAA when they have 64 teams. Now they're 68.
First team out.
Well, yeah, now they're always like, the first 4 out. Oh, they got jobbed. Somebody's always getting jobbed or something else. There does come a point where you want to keep that integrity of the regular season a little bit. So there's a balance there. I do think the 8-team where you make the conference championship mean something to get an automatic bid. You will have something like Oregon getting in there this year. You say they're not one of the best, 8 teams. They're not one of the best 16 teams. They're not one of the best top 25 teams. But you know what? That conference game is going to mean something. We see it in the NFL with the NFC East. I mean, the Eagles and the Cowboys, to see who's going to host a playoff game. People bitch about that. But I think that you make those games mean everything. You know, the 7 games of the Big Ten East, or I guess the six games that you play there, they mean everything. You know, because you get that automatic bid. You still have a chance to get 2 wild cards or 2 at-large, and then you also bring in that the Cinderella element with the underdog element, and you get that 1 at-large team. I think you could put a stipulation on it that they have to be in the top 25 or whatever, because if you had a bunch of garbage group of 5 teams, and say, oh, what, do we really want a 3-loss Tulsa team in there? So you got to put something on it, but I do think that's going to be the next step, and they are going to go to that, and maybe Keith at that point will come back and he'll like it a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm in favor of 8 teams as well. I've been in favor of 8 teams since before the BCS was invented. So hopefully
you're
we'll have it.
You're ahead of the curve, chap.
Yeah,
you're ahead of the curve.
I typically am. All right, let's turn the page now to the 4th chapter.
And that gets us to the NBA. It is the start of the 2021-22 NBA season. It is tonight. The Pistons, they will open up tomorrow. So, chap, what do you think about the Pistons, the best-case scenario, the worst-case scenario, and then who do you think it's going to be this year? It's it seems like they just played the finals last week, but here we go again.
Well, before we get to my opinion, let's see what the opinion is of the folks at ESPN, because they put out their preseason power rankings, and obviously today is the start of the NBA season. Where do the Pistons rank in the beginning of the season power rankings? You can see it right there. Number 28. Last time we saw them, the Pistons had suffered their 5th straight loss. They actually finished the season losing 11 of their last 12 after trading away Drummond. But look at these projections you got right here. ESPN forecasts a 20-50 record, which is in a 3-way tie with the Knicks and the Cavaliers for the worst record in the NBA. BPI 20-52, 538, 17-55, and Caesars has the over/under at 23 wins. I think the Pistons' best case scenario is 38-34. The worst case is 12-60, and my prediction for how they're actually going to fare is 19-53. How they get to the best case scenario of 58-34 is this: Killian Hayes improves his shots because it's been terrible in the 4 preseason games, and he goes off for 18-8 averages per game and wins the Rookie of the Year. Ooh.
Sorry.
Blake Griffin plays like an all-star and perhaps makes the all-star game. Derrick Rose plays like he did before he got hurt last year, and both of those 2 guys stay healthy throughout the year. Sekou shows that the preseason was no fluke and scores 15 a game off the bench. And then you look at the front court guys and Stewart, Bay, and the free agent acquisition Grant. They play well in the front court. If you do that, you stay healthy in terms of coronavirus, and you play a few games against players that do have to sit out via the coronavirus pandemic. I think they could go 38-34 in a best case scenario. Worst case, they could be the league's worst team at 12-60. How they get there, the Pistons keep turning the ball over like they did during the preseason. Blake Griffin gets hurt, plays less than 20 games. Rose gets hurt, plays less than 20 games. Several players miss time due to the virus. Hayes can't develop a jumper, and fans wonder, why did they draft Isaiah Stewart? Because remember, on draft night, fans were excited that they acquired the extra 2 first-round picks, but they were saying, why did they get a center? And then what if Sekou looks like a fluke and Jeremy Grant looks overpaid? I think they'll end up going 19-53 because I think Rose is going to get traded if he stays healthy, which is going to hurt the team. I think Griffin's knees can't be trusted. And with all these new players, there's just no chemistry. They've showed that during the preseason with all the turnovers. All these rookies that are going to get playing time, they just can't be good unless at least 2 of those rookies break out, which I'm not expecting. 19-53.
Yeah, so what, they're playing 72 games this year?
That's correct.
So the old 41 not being 500. I would put them at 25 wins, which would put them at 25 and 47. I think that this is so much a transition year, and this is actually the Pistons admitting that they're a bottom 5 franchise right now, and so that's the target, is for them to be one of the bottom 5 teams in the NBA. So when you start talking about what's the best case scenario, it sounds weird to say them, being the worst team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. That's what they're shooting for. They're shooting to be the worst team in the NBA. But along the way, if you can be a bottom 5 team and, Sekou or Killian, it's about, everybody knows, like, you'd like to have a superstar. I mean, like, if Sekou could turn into a superstar or Killian, now you're talking. Of course, that's the idea. But can they be stars? Can Sekou or Killian, those guys are 19 years old, and, Isaiah Stewart is as well. That's 3 19-year-olds. Can one of those guys be a star? Can 2 of them be, all-stars in this league? I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're not going to know for another 2 years. I mean, you go look and you look at Pascal Siakam, like, he's a star right now for the Raptors. It took him 3 years, before he even started, putting up, big numbers. So last year was a complete throwaway for Sekou. I think this year is too. I mean, I don't have any expectations for him, even for I don't even know for next year. It's not like him being an all-star. If you look at the Siakam, look at the Siakam timeline. I mean, what are you expecting these guys to come in and be superstars right away? I think that's what you hope, and maybe some of these guys like Bay or Saban Lee, rotational guys, or something even a little bit more than that. Remember Chris Middleton, and he was a 2nd-round pick.
Spencer Dinwiddie,
who's starting tonight for the Nets against the Warriors, as I was watching a few minutes of that game. 2nd-round pick. So, hopefully Saban Lee can turn into, saying Chris Middleton sounds crazy, but could he be the next Spencer Dinwiddie? I mean, that's the idea, and not trading him away. So, that's it. Find some rotational guys, find some stars. It would be great to find a superstar, but so, the best case scenario, the best case scenario is for them to be a bottom 5 team. Worst case scenario, I don't see, like, if all of these guys look like they've got no future. Like Sekou, Max is out. Killian looks like, he wasn't a good pick. The rest of these guys. I mean, being a bad team and looking like you have nobody that is going to develop, that would be the worst case scenario for me.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I was just going purely record-wise, but I think you're right. If all these guys look like busts, then you've got a problem. And if these guys look like if you can just add a top 5 pick in the 2021 draft, and you can add a free agent with Derrick Rose's money off the books and perhaps somebody else's money off the books, you can make the playoffs in 2022. Then yeah, that would be the best case scenario.
Playoffs.
Hey, that's what it's all about eventually at some point, right?
Well, yeah, but we got to find out if remember, I mean, I want him to tank for the double draft, which is going to be the Amani Bates draft. Is Amani Bates a sophomore in high school?
He's a junior. I mean, look, it's
junior.
You if you're going to be tanking that long, you can't miss. And there's only a 14% chance, even if you have the worst record in the NBA, that you're going to get the number 1 pick in the draft. I think it would be better if the Pistons, because the only way you're going to tank for that long is if you got guys that you just drafted either getting hurt or they're just no good.
What, or Blake Griffin, somehow you can jettison him this year. I mean, that's going to make this year bad. Next year, I mean, if you go into it and you just you turn over the roster again and you just throw a bunch of 19-year-olds out there, and then I mean, you can't hope that somebody gets hurt. I mean, I get your point there. You can draft some damaged goods like the Sixers did. I don't know. They did that.
Yeah.
All right, chap. It's going to be fun. Pistons getting it going. At least give it something to watch and talk about in the days ahead. Paul, who's usually the first one in on Facebook, is the last one in right now, saying there should be an asterisk next to the champion this year. I don't know what sport he's talking about, but I don't see any asterisks in any
I bet he's
sports
talking
right
about
now.
college football. I think that was probably from the 3rd chapter.
I think he was talking about college hockey, but no, he could. I'm not sure. Well, I wouldn't put one in the NBA last year. Baseball gets one because of the stupid guy running around without his mask there at the end. That was dumb. He gets an asterisk.
Yeah,
So,
Justin Turner.
yeah, he tainted the Dodgers World Series a little bit by acting a fool there at the end, but he's got to wear that. I don't see any other asterisks myself. Going through it, everybody has to go through it. Everybody's going to remember it. The asterisk will be that People will all remember it in the college football playoff. You want to put one against the Buckeyes if they would win it, that's fine. But I'm not considering the Buckeyes winning it. I think that they're going to get waxed. Kenneth says rebuilding year. Keith says it's so hard to predict, but Jeremy Grant will be outstanding. I've always liked him.
Let's hope so. If he's not, I mean, they spent $60 million on him. It'd be a huge disaster to see if he's no good.
Here's
Oh, you cut out there for a second, but I was just I was just saying that if Jeremy Grant sucks this year for $60 million over 3 years, that would be a huge problem. And it looks like we are having a connection issue with Dennis. So let's just go.
Out.
There,
okay.
Now Dennis is back. All right. Yeah, nobody heard what you said in the last 30 seconds. Let's just turn the page to the 5th chapter.
All right, let's do it.
That takes us to the
People
major.
Can hear me, they can't hear Chap. That's good.
That takes
I
us.
was great last week. I picked the Cards and the Browns, so I've won 4 in a row. I'm picking the Vikings on Christmas +7.
All right. Well, it was a good weekend for me because
All right, sounds good, Chap.
Hey,
have a great day.
Hey,
Goodbye, Chap.
hey, no.
Have a great holiday. We'll talk with you next Tuesday.
Hey,
here on the 5th chapter.
Wait, what? I think Dennis muted his mic. But it was a good weekend for me. I picked Penn State to cover the 15.5 against Illinois, and they won by 35. I had those few bonus picks. I had Clemson -10.5, Titans -11, and the Chiefs -3. And oh wow, I don't know what happened. I think it's clear that we had some communication issues to finish off. So I'll just say that my pick was Wagner -6.5 against Sacred Heart because the game tipped off at 4, and I had to make that pick early. Wagner beat Sacred Heart 74-46 yesterday, a 28-point margin. I figure why not pick them again today? And in double overtime, Sacred Heart got revenge and won. So that was a bad pick. That was a mistake. It seemed like a smart pick. Why would you lose by 28 points one day and win by 1 the next day? But that's what happened. All right, definitely want to thank you guys for tuning into the 5th chapter tonight. Despite our technical difficulties to conclude the show, we will be back on Thursday. Of course, we'll have a little bit of NBA in the books. We'll have the Pistons' first game in the books. We'll have Christmas basketball to look forward to as well. For Dennis, I am Brian Chapman, and we will see you again on Thursday.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the 5th chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the 5th chapter.